500 for this? Hey, 150 is all I'm giving you. Come on, this is not worth that much. Alright, 200 is the last I can give you. You give it or I'm off to the next one. Okay, 220 it is. Deal. I'm from India and we are the masters of negotiations and bargains. But only in small markets and shops. When it comes to negotiating something big and important like our salaries, we are just like anyone else in this world. We hesitate. We choose to do nothing. So here I am today with 3 things that you must consider before you have that conversation of salary with your employer. Find out how you should negotiate, when you should negotiate, and if companies actually want you to negotiate. Stay tuned. Hey you awesome people, welcome to my channel. This is Sapta, and if you're here for the first time, this is the place where I help designers build and scale their career with tips, suggestions and tutorials. So if you're into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Last week, one of the most requested thing was a video on how to negotiate your compensation with your employer. When we are offered a job, most of us tend to think that we are being done a favor. We fail to see the fact that employers gain from us as much as we gain from the employers. It's a two-way thing, you see, it's a symbiosis. And this is something we need to understand. So here I am today with 3 important points that you need to keep in your mind before you do that money talk, so that you get the best and only the best. Number 1 is value. Your value and the value you can bring to the table with your skills. The more your value, the more money you'll likely be paid. So how do you boost your value? Simple, by working on your skills. You must have heard of that old saying, jack of all trades and master of none. It's used to refer to a person who has a good breadth of knowledge about a lot of things, but isn't really an expert in any one of them, and hence not suitable for anything professional. But that's an old saying. This is 2020, and trust me when I say this, you need to be a jack of every trade and a master of some. So, in addition to getting better at what you already know, you also need to keep learning a lot of new things. When I say multiple skills, I don't mean you being able to do the work of multiple people. Well, with more skills, you certainly have the capability to do different kinds of work, but along with that, you also unlock the possibility of compounding the effects of different skills and come up with something which is very unique. Something which no one else has thought about. Innovation. For example, only when you know the properties of both milk and lemon, you can even think of using them together and invent something as unique as cottage cheese or paneer, which is way different from milk and lemon both. Your personal experiences and hobbies can also add up to create something which is very unique to yourself, thereby increasing your value. If you have a smaller set of skills, no matter how deep your understanding is, you will often find yourself thinking only within the limits of them, which isn't entirely bad, but you lose out on a whole new possibility. It's like living in a Plato's cave. If you know what Plato's cave is, let me know in the comment section. Now the next big question is, what exactly should you learn? There are so many things. Well, you can start with something which is close to what you already know. That is, anything which comes right before or right after what you do. For example, if you are into hardcore UX flows and you pass on to the next person, a visual designer, for taking care of the visual and aesthetic bits, maybe you should try your hands at visual design next time. Or if you're a visual designer and you have been relying on somebody else for animations and motions, maybe you should try your hands on that next time. A simple blog post or a YouTube video is more than enough to get you started. When you try and learn something which is close to what you already know, learning becomes much easier and faster. The whole idea is to eventually reach a stage where you are self-sufficient, where you can single-handedly build a complete thing if the need be. You know what's another great thing about learning a new skill? It comes with an awesome byproduct called confidence. Remember, confidence comes from competence. However, there is one small problem with this entire value thing. It takes a lot of time for anyone else to truly determine your real value. And that brings us to the next one, number 2, the perceived value. Your value is your real worth, whereas your perceived value is what others think of your worth. Ideally, these two things should be same, but that rarely happens. Now here's the most interesting part. You get paid based on your perceived value and not your real value. The higher your perceived value, the more the money you'll likely be offered. What you have done in the past, the kind of impressions that you have made, the way you performed in your interviews, or in general how famous or known you are some of the things that determine your perceived value. And employers use these information to determine how good a fit you are for their organization. The more credentials and testimonials you have, the more confident they will be about your value. In fact, all the interviews, case studies, and brainstormings are attempts to build a perception around your value as a candidate. So how do you boost your perceived value as a designer? You do it by being yourself, by being your best self. And you do it not only during your interview, but it's an ongoing process that happens over time. You work for a famous company, it boosts your perceived value. You have a huge fan following on social media, works in your favor again. You spoke at a big conference, you wrote a case study that went viral, you have a patent to your name. All these things add to your perceived value. In short, it's your personal branding that does the magic more often than not. Think of it, when you buy anything from a small shop, you negotiate and get a bargain because you're not confident about the quality, the reliability, or the longevity of the thing that you're buying. Essentially, you're not sure how much of value that would add to your life. Hence, you try and buy it at the lowest possible price to minimize your risk. But you rarely bargain at a well-known branded store, do you? Well, that's because you already have a good perception about the brand and the thing that you're buying. You are confident that it's going to add value to your life, and hence you do not even mind paying that hefty amount or the hefty price tag for it. This is exactly what a high perceived value does to your profile. When you have a high perceived value, employers are more confident to believe in your abilities, and hence they might not even have problem to shell out a few extra bucks for you. Now, this might make you think, why bother about real value at all when perceived value is all that matters at the end? Well, it's true that perceived value determines the amount of money you make, but it works in tandem with real value. Think of values as circles. The more value you have, the bigger your circle gets. Now, perceived value is another circle which forms around your real value. While it may seem like an independent entity, but it's actually built on the foundation of your real values. So, if you try and grow your perceived value without doing anything to your real value, it's going to collapse soon without a proper base or a core inside. You don't want to get a big offer based on an unreal perceived value, because even if you manage to do that somehow, your real self will be out soon. Trust me, you don't want to be a faker. Once you have taken care of value and perceived value, consider most of it done. Most of it, not everything. The remaining things are taken care by number 3, which is the talking. I know many of you were waiting for this. This is the phase where you speak directly or communicate with your employer about the compensation. It can be a face-to-face conversation, a phone call, or even email. And why would you do that? Because you want a bigger compensation, of course. And also because employers want you to do that. Yes, you heard me right. Employers want you to negotiate. When you negotiate, it shows that you have all that it takes to think, build opinions, and express your ideas and thoughts. And all these are highly valued skills for any job. One good way to start the talking is by asking them how they arrived at the number. Try and understand their logic and calculations and ask for some time before you can get back to them. After analyzing the complete offer, if you feel that you are being paid less than what you should get, start the talking. Reply to them. Maybe you can start with a thank you. Something like this. Thank you for the offer. I spent some time analyzing it. Considering my present compensation, the exposure and the benefits that I'm getting here, the offer doesn't seem motivating enough for me to make the switch. Is this the best you can do? If we break down what I just said, you will see it has 4 parts. The first is gratitude. Always thank the employer for the offer because they found you worthy enough to be a part of their company. The second is analysis. Explain in detail the reasoning behind what you think the offer is. Third, concern. Clearly call out what you think is the biggest concern as to why you believe the offer is not the right for you. Number 4, question. Always try and end with a question. Remember, the person who asks the question controls the conversation. This can be a template that you can use for various situations. Let's see a few examples. Thank you for the offer. I worked really hard the past year and the company acknowledges it. My appraisals are due next month and I also expect a promotion. Although this is a good offer, but it seems a little lukewarm when I compare it to the big hike that I'm anticipating here. Is there any way we can make it mutually work? Thank you for the offer. I know that I'll get to work on some really great stuff from the scratch which will lay the foundation of the company. But in the process, I'm also signing up for a lot of risk and uncertainty. I understand that it's an early stage startup, but I'd be more comfortable if you could include stocks worth X as a part of the offer. What do you think about it? Remember, whenever you're having this kind of a communication, remove all your emotions out of it and base it purely on facts. This will make your case much stronger and genuine. Even when you know that you have been offered a low ball and you're enraged beyond limits, hold on to it. Ask for a day or two. It is recommended that you sleep over it and let all your emotions and anger drain out of you. Next morning, analyze the offer critically when you're calm. Gather each and every point, each and every detail that you can use for negotiation. Only and only after you have done this homework, go ahead and have the conversation in a humble but confident way, just like mature adults. You will be surprised at the way you handle the whole thing. After listening to all this, you might be wondering, why is Sapta speaking about salary and negotiations and all this life skills? He's supposed to speak about design. Well, I'm speaking about all this because negotiation is an integral part of a designer's primary skill sets. We all know that our work is to design, but the story doesn't end here. Let me tell you what happens after this. After you design, it's your responsibility to convince your stakeholders into believing why you think this is the right thing to do. It could be your client, your team, your boss, or even your CEO, anyone. Remember, your work may be the best, but if you fail to convince others into believing the same, your design may never see the light of the day. You might have heard a lot of stories about stakeholders giving feedback such as make the logo 20% bigger or make this button pop a little more. I know it can get really annoying. But next time when you get such feedback, ask yourself, have you given enough strong reason as to why the logo should be of this size and not 20% bigger? If you have, well and good. But if you haven't, then you shouldn't be complaining about such feedback either. So, negotiation is out and out a must-have skill for anyone, especially designers. You never know, maybe your future employer who has just made you an offer wants to simply see how good you are in the skill of negotiation. Maybe your interview is not over yet. Maybe this is one last surprise exercise that's given to you. Well, now that you know all these things, you don't have to worry. Just be confident, go ahead and nail it like a boss. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you want me to make a video on anything particular, let me know in the comment section so that I can get back to you there. This is Sapta. See you guys in the next one.